and welcome to the Beef Edge, the Teagasc Beef Podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Catherine Egan, and on this week's show, Alan Dillon, Beef Specialist and Green Acres Programme Manager, gives us an update on the Dairy Calf to Beef programme, as well as the key targets for the rearing phase.
The Green Acres programme was launched there in early 2019. That was phase 2. If you're to summarise, I suppose, how the year went, it was mixed. I suppose weather went our way. Unfortunately, the price of beef didn't, and that was the biggest problem we had. We are in expansion mode on most of these farms, so these farms would have had farm plans done in the spring of 2019 and early summer. And these plans will be spread out over then. The change will be spread over 3 years. So in general, we've looked at improving the areas like grassland management, herd health, increasing levels of output, etc. Maybe changing system in certain areas. There would be a mix of systems on farms, so we would have the vast majority would be doing 2-year-old or 30-month steer beef. The breeds would be majority would be coming in as Frisian calves. There would be a good lot of Angus and Hereford, also a small number of continental calves, but the vast majority we'd be dealing with would be Frisians. Weight gains have been fairly good on the farm so far this year. We have, in most cases, we have hit our targets. And over the winter period, the calves have done quite well because silage quality was very good in a lot of the farms. Vast majority of the farms hit in excess of 70 DMD silage, and this is a help, I suppose, when you're dealing with low beef prices. That we had a large amount of weight gain from grass on our store cattle and our calves, and we had good quality silage to reduce the meal bill over the winter period.
The Green Acres Phase 2 of the programme was built on the success of the Phase 1. Can you tell me what was achieved from Phase 1 of the programme?
Okay, phase 1 of the programme ran for 3 years. It was quite successful in that it achieved the a net margin per hectare across all the farms of in and around €500 per hectare, which is still the target for phase 2 of the programme. Most of the farms on average were making a net loss prior to joining the programme. So in effect, they achieved an increase in profitability of around €500 per hectare. And a number of areas are worked on, similar to what's been worked on now in terms of improving herd health on farms, looking at sourcing calves from less sources. So we had a number of farms that were sourcing calves from multiple sources, and this was probably leading to elements of herd health issues on farm from calves mixed in marts and long draws and trailers, etc. Trying to, I suppose, work on bringing calves from direct from farm onto the rearing farm, etc. It was led by Gordon Peppard in phase 1. They had 14 farms, and I suppose overall it was a very positive message in terms of showing a calf to beef system that can be profitable. And I suppose that's what we're hoping to do again in phase 2. The current beef prices are making it a little bit more tricky over the past year or so, but hopefully we're hoping things are going to get a bit better.
There are a number of stakeholders involved in the programme. Who are they and what do they bring to the programme?
Yeah, we have a total of 7 stakeholders in this programme, and they all bring something different. Munster Bovine, MSD, Drummonds, Volac, Corteva, AgriScience, Liffey Mills and AgriLand are media partners. So I suppose if you look at, MSD, a lot of experience in animal health and vaccinations, and there's a lot of info to be got there. The likes of Volac are involved in, milk replacer and what quality milk replacer should you be buying for your calves and mixing it, temperature, etc. A lot of information being got from them. Corteva are involved, of course, in mainly in grassland sprays and that, and improving grassland management, weed control, etc. Munster Bovine, I suppose they're obviously an AI company, and they're working with us as well on improving the quality of calves coming through breeding. So the dairy beef index is a big focus of them. And then you've Liffey Mills and Drummonds, who are of course merchants, and they would be involved in directing us in terms of feed quality, etc., and cost of feed on farms. So everyone brings something different to the table, and they, I suppose, while they're involved with us, they're not really interfering with us. They let us work away on the programme and let us develop the farms as best we can, but they're always there. They're a good backup to have.
There are 2 advisors on the programme, James Fitzgerald and Sean Cummins. What is their role in the programme?
Yeah, I suppose this programme is very different to what most farmers would get from, I suppose, dealing with their local B&T advisor, in that it's a very intensive programme. It's an intensive advisory programme that we've put in place, where an advisor will arrive out in your farm probably every 4 weeks. We've a farm plan put together, a 3-year farm plan that the farmer is expected to work towards for the duration of while he's in this programme. And the likes of Sean and James will be calling out to these farmers, as I said, every 4 weeks or thereabouts, implementing the changes, ensuring that we're hitting our targets. If there's issues on the farm, we have to maybe re-look at the targets we've set, or look at problems as to why we're not achieving those targets, maybe in terms of weight gain, in terms of grass growth, silage quality, calf health, etc. And they're ensuring that all these targets are going to be hit. And so we achieve our target of hitting in excess of €500 a hectare net margin on these farms. And that's their main role.
You mentioned a number of areas there that the 13 participants are focused on. What are the main areas?
The main areas we're dealing with would be rearing of the calves. So look, calves are arriving on these farms. We had some farmers buying calves from multiple sources. Was one farm in particular, I think, had over 30 sources because calves have been bought through dealers, etc. And look, we're trying to limit that more. And that a calf, I suppose, is a susceptible animal. It doesn't have a great immunity at a very young age. We're trying to get more link-ups between the dairy and the beef farmer, so the calves will hopefully travel directly from the dairy farm to the beef farm, minimal stress on the calf. We're sure then of the amount of beastings the calf has got, we're sure maybe the calf health, and we might probably have a better idea of the breed makeup of the calf. So we should be getting a better quality animal into our farm if we can make these link-ups. Farm planning, a very important element. So we have a 3-year farm plan put in place for all these farmers, and they're working towards that over the duration of the programme. So they would be expected to follow this plan fairly much to the letter of the law. If any changes, they will come back to us and see about what we think on these issues. And that will hopefully drive their output, drive their profitability, and leave them in a better place financially. Animal health, big area on farms. We have a number of the farms, I suppose, in their initial year and in previous years before they joined the programme, had problems with herd health, mainly pneumonia issues in calves. That was the main one we were finding across the programme calves. And we're working, I suppose, with vets and with the farmers, and bringing in maybe the likes of our partners MSD in the programme to look at ways of mitigating against these kind of issues arising on farms. So calves are achieving their daily weight gains, they're staying healthy, lower levels of vet costs across farms, and less antibiotic use. So grassland management we will be touching on also. I suppose it's the cornerstone of how we're going to achieve our weight gain cheaply on farms. So a lot of these farms need a bit of work in terms of farm infrastructure. So paddocking out farms, placing of water trucks, putting in roadways, maybe improving soil fertility, reseeding, controlling weeds, etc. And putting a good grassland management plan in place. So our farmers are out measuring grass on a weekly basis, feeding into Pasture Base Ireland. So at the minute, we're just looking at the results from 2019, and we're trying to see, I suppose, can we top that this year again? Hopefully we can in terms of grassland output. The financial management then on these farms is something we have to kind of constantly keep an eye on. There is a big, risk, with expanding a farm and increasing output, that you may result in cash flow difficulties because you're lacking sales and you have extra money gone into buying in stock on the farm, while you're trying to push output levels and achieve higher levels of overall farm performance. So we're working closely with farms, maybe talking to banks if needs be, etc., to try and I suppose put facilities in place to carry the farms through this expansion phase. And finally, I suppose soil fertility. It's I've mentioned already, I suppose, in terms of grassland management, but it's something that's really lacking in terms of across the country, really, especially on beef farms. The levels of P and K and soil pH on farms is a lot lower than what would be deemed satisfactory, and it's resulting, I suppose, in poorer levels of grass growth and less daily live weight gain from grass, which is the cheapest source we have of daily live weight gain. So we're trying to put in place plans to improve soil fertility, spreading a lot of lime on these farms at the minute. A lot of investment in that. Changing fertilisers. We're moving away from, I suppose, fertiliser types with low levels of P and K to maybe moving towards more 18, 6, 12s, 10, 10, 20 type fertilisers to drive up the soil fertility, and targeting slurry as well at low soil indexes. You
mentioned calf rearing. For farmers listening, what are the main points of focus from your experience?
I suppose ensuring calf health, that is probably the first thing you have to watch. If a calf arrives in your farm, you have to make sure that calf hits its daily live weight gain for the duration of the rearing period. We will be promoting, I suppose, vaccination of calves as much as possible, and trying to limit antibiotic use on farms. A number of the farms would have had outbreaks of pneumonia with calves arriving in the springtime this year, and I suppose not only is it a detriment to daily live weight gain, but also there's a huge cost associated with that, both in terms of live weight gain lost, and also in terms of vet bills, antibiotics, etc. We're entering a period of where AMR, antimicrobial resistance, is coming to the forefront, and the use of antibiotics could be restricted a lot more in years ahead. So we're promoting, I suppose, calves to be vaccinated on arrival or shortly after arrival with a product that will cover both RSV and PI3, the two main strains of pneumonia that are hitting calves. Ensuring calves have a good bed and a deep bed of straw when they arrive, and they're in a shed that's suitable for calf rearing, that has good ventilation, but also is able to ensure that calves are in a warm environment. You don't want calves being put into a shed that is probably cold and drafty, with low levels of bedding, so calves maybe won't be able to nest into the straw, and also that the air will be stale. You want to ensure that there's constant source of fresh air in the shed, and that the old stale air can escape out of the shed, to ensure that calves remain healthy and their lungs remain in good order. In terms of, I suppose, rearing them then, in terms of milk replacer, look, you're looking for a good quality milk replacer from a reputable source. You're looking at a protein content of, around 23% is probably adequate for the vast majority of calves in the country. Maybe if you're looking at growing Holstein Friesian heifers, you may look at a slightly higher level, but overall around 23% is probably fairly adequate. In terms of the ingredients, the main ingredients should be either skim milk or whey. They would be the two main ingredients that you will be looking for in a milk replacer. And ensure that the product is mixed properly, temperature is adequate, etc. Follow the instructions on the bag, I suppose. All these products have good instructions on the back as to how to mix them, how to feed them, etc. And also, I would say, hygiene around feeding utensils, extremely important. Ensure that they're washed and cleaned with a suitable product after every use, and I suppose that calves are not ingesting dirt or bugs in when they're being fed.
Labour is a huge issue in this phase. What innovations are available on farm to help with this stage?
I suppose some of the farmers have gone down the route of an automatic feeder. Now, they are expensive. There's a variety of options available in terms of buying them. Some have bought new, some have bought second hand. It depends on how many calves you're going to feed, whether you go down this route. They are a great help in terms of cutting down on labour requirements, but look, these machines are quite expensive, and you would want to be committed to rearing a large number of calves and rearing calves for a long number of years to justify such a product. A lot of farmers are still using just the teat feeders with 10 teats in them. It's quite a simple and cheap way of doing it. And look, for buying in, if you're buying in 20, 30, 40 calves, it's probably adequate for your operation.
You've mentioned the importance of herd health and housing. What are the main changes that farmers in the programme have done and encountered in order to resolve issues going forward in 2020?
I suppose what we're looking at on farms is the quality of calf sheds, I suppose, and the quality of calf housing. In a lot of cases on farms, you go onto farms, you will see that, I suppose, the calf shed is generally a shed that was used for something else in a previous life. It may have been a converted hay barn or a machinery shed or something else. And these sheds may not be designed for calves. The first thing to check is ventilation right? Has the shed got adequate area for the old stale air to escape? Can air circulate through the shed? New air come in? Also, the drainage in the shed. One of the biggest things is with flat floors, should I say, is that there is not enough drainage coming out of where the calves are lying. So calves may be lying in a wet bed, even though there might be new straw on top. There probably could be still liquid trapped in the old manure and straw underneath, and this is releasing ammonia into the calf's lungs, and this can have a detrimental effect on the respiratory performance of the calf. So we would be looking at maybe trying to improve drainage, putting slopes into floors that calves will be lying on, leading into a drain, so the bed will stay dry, or is cutting channels maybe into the floor in a herringbone system to relieve liquid flow. It's something farmers should always check. I always say, when you go into a calf shed and you see where calves are bedded, bring in a 4-prong fork and dig down into the bedding. See, is the bedding wet? And is there a smell of ammonia off it underneath? If it is, in spite of the fact you may be bedding calves with new straw, they're still releasing that ammonia up into their lungs.
As a rule of thumb, what are the key targets that farmers should be targeting to achieve with calves at the end of this rearing phase?
I suppose you'll be looking at around 0.7 kilos per day, roughly. That would be roughly around your target daily live weight gain. And the calf should be eating an adequate amount of concentrate around the time that they're weaned off milk. So when a calf is coming off milk, they should be eating probably in excess of a kilo per day of concentrate. Probably 16 to 18% concentrate will do the calves fine. And once they're on that level, you're probably safe enough to start weaning the calf, putting him out to grass. I suppose the one thing we've seen is that calves generally are having a bit of trouble thriving with on new grass when they go out for the first time. So if you could possibly put calves maybe in an older type pasture, calves tend to thrive a bit better. They do seem to have a bit of trouble digesting maybe perennial ryegrass when they're put out.
There's been major developments in breeding. As we know from experience, no two calves are the same when they get to 2 years of age. Are farmers in the programme using the Dairy Beef Index?
Yes, and they are using the Dairy Beef Index, and they would be encouraging, I suppose, the dairy farmers that they're dealing with to also select bulls off the Dairy Beef Index. So when they're picking a bull, they're generally looking for a bull with a positive carcass trait. So you're dealing with a positive figure for carcass in around, hopefully in excess of 8 to 10 kilos. For Friesians, I suppose, you're generally hoping that they'll come somewhere near 0 kilos or a little bit better for carcass traits. But overall, look, farmers are trying to source calves with better genetics. The vast majority of coming in that aren't Friesian are Angus and Hereford, and they're hoping to maybe buy calves from farms with some of the better bulls being used.
This February, 600,000 dairy cows will calve. While some will be retained for breeding or exported, there will still be a significant number on the Irish market. What is the profitability of dairy calf to beef systems?
Okay, Catherine, I suppose it very much it depends on what the beef price is when you kill the calf and the buying price of the calf. We have a kind of a costs associated with rearing these calves at 24 months steer. So if we take probably the Friesian bull calf, the Hereford or Angus, or even the Jersey cross calf, you could put a round figure for an efficient producer of around €1,000 between fixed and variable costs to take that calf through to finish as a 2-year-old steer. And this is for an extremely efficient producer stocked at 2.5 livestock units per hectare. The lower down the stocking rate you go, the more of a fixed cost you have associated with the animal. So your cost could go to maybe 11 or 1,200 euros. Then you have to take the buying price into account. I suppose we would say if you're taking a calf for free, a Friesian calf, we would say at current prices you would make a net margin of around 72 euros per head over 2 years on that calf. If beef prices improve to around, let's say, €4 per kilo or thereabouts, you'll probably go up to around 170 euros per calf or thereabouts. Okay, it's very much dependent on beef price and buying price. But every 40 cent increase or decrease in price from 350 would swing the profitability by around 125 euros per head.
In relation to the weanlings that are being turned out in the coming weeks on farms, what are the main factors to focus on?
For those weanlings that are going out, I suppose, to ensure that they have all their vaccines received and their doses, they're free of lungworm and fluke going out to grass, and that you keep, I suppose, grass quality in front of them as good as can be possibly achieved. You need to start grazing them in a rotational grazing system. Keep good covers of grass, let's say around 14 to 1600 kilos dry matter per hectare ahead of them at all times. They say we always have the rule: grazing 3 days, growing 3 weeks. This will suffice for the main grazing season. Take out paddocks as they become too strong, and aim to achieve, I suppose, something between 210 and 250 days at grass minimum over the year. These are light animals, so I suppose you have the benefit that they can go out maybe slightly earlier than your older, heavier stock without doing any damage to ground. So they have a big benefit in that way, and try to achieve, I suppose, a high daily live weight gain as you can possibly can at grass.
You've covered a lot of important points there, Ellen. What would be the top 3 recommendations you have for farmers listening in relation to buying calves now at the moment?
In terms of sourcing calves, I suppose we would recommend sourcing directly from farm. Ensure that the calf has received its colostrum when it was born, that the calf looked healthy, and you may also have an idea then of genetic makeup of the calf when you're buying them. And it's good also to build a relationship with dairy farms. Many dairy farms are looking to build a relationship with a beef farmer that will take the calves early in the time. In terms of calf health, I suppose we're looking across programme farms in the Green Acres as promoting the vaccination programme as best we can. We're trying to use less antibiotics on the farms and hopefully end up with less setbacks to calf growth. And also, I suppose, when in the second year, one thing to watch is the Grassland Management. I suppose we talked earlier about yearlings being turned out to grass. Really, it's your time to achieve very high levels of daily live weight gain on a cheap cost. And an early turnout and good grassland management throughout the year is essential to achieving this.
Some very useful information there, Alan. Thanks very much for joining me on the show.
Okay, Catherine, thanks very much. And also just remember that on the Green Acres Dairy Calf to Beef programme, we have regular features on Agriland every week. And also we will be having about 4 events throughout 2020, starting in April and running out through the summer. It'll be notified online and through Teagasc.
Looking forward to those dates. Thanks, Alan. That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Alan for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. Until next time, I'm Catherine Egan and thanks for listening.